Greetings of the day, my fellow listeners, and welcome to another edition of Building Better Businesses. My name is Steve Eschbach. I'm a Transworld Business Advisor owner here in Naperville, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. I'm also affiliated with Caton Commercial Real Estate, also here in Naperville, Illinois. And I'm delighted to bring you another edition of our program, Building Better Businesses. Today, I am lucky to have Yadi Alamin, right? Is that how you say that, sir?
Yes, close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. And he is the owner of Charlotte ACU Bodywork. And he has got a very, very interesting business. It is actually, for lack of a better way to describe it, is acupuncture without needles, which everyone out there, I'm sure, when they hear acupuncture, they naturally think it's got to include needles, but not the technology that we have here today with Yadi. So thank you so much, Yadi, for joining us today. And why don't you start by giving us a little bit of a background of your company as it exists today?
Well, Steve, thanks for the introduction. I'm glad to be here. Uh, Briefly, Charlotte ACU Bodywork is a company that evolved from something I was doing half a day as a rental. The idea was to give people acupuncture results without needles, and that sort of came out of several years of acupuncture as an apprentice. It was really unplanned and happened just by the virtue of being able to give people results that they didn't get elsewhere. So it was really just an idea that evolved into a company. Since then, has become a full business, a school, and kind of a community resource here in Charlotte. Yeah, we've been at it for about 11 years.
Yeah, that's a terrific story there. So how did you come to get to where you are today? Like I said, when I began the program, most people think of acupuncture as having needles related to it. Didn't you have a life experience that got you in this direction? Am I correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell us a
I
little bit
never
about.
believed in Sure. Yeah, I never really believed in acupuncture or alternative medicine up until the point where other medicines didn't help me. I was very sick about 23 years ago. I would have sudden tachycardia, where my heart would beat too fast, and I would have trouble breathing, and all the muscles in my body would seize up. And it wasn't something that doctors helped me with. They would, say, "Oh, this is an anxiety attack. Give me anxiety medication," which I got addicted to, and from that, even got worse from just those symptoms of, extreme tachycardia and muscle tension and having trouble breathing. I got no answers, Steve, after like a year and a half, and this is working in medicine, right? I worked for Caremark and Trustmark Pharmacy, um, and I had been a porter, I had been a phlebotomist, so I really didn't have any faith in acupuncture until the point where a year goes by and I'm like 115 pounds and nothing is working. I'm ready to kill myself, and I call my mother and say, "Look, I'm I'm just gonna kill myself." And my mother says, "Don't do it. Go to an acupuncturist." She's not an acupuncture person. She just didn't want her son to die. I found a guy in a book called The Monthly Aspectarian, which is like a Chicago, it's a soft cover monthly alternative care magazine. And it was an older Chinese guy in a uniform, kind of like this. And I thought, this will be cool. He'll go and like chop me in my neck and I'll die because I didn't have any hope for it. So I went to Westmont, Illinois. There's a little Chinese mall on Westmont on Pasquinelli Drive. And this guy, he looked at my tongue, he felt my pulse, and he said something that I didn't understand. And then put me on a table. He was grunting, putting his hands on. It's a Chicago winter, so it's like 15 degrees at night. A high of 30 and sunny. But I'm freezing, and this guy's putting his hands on a radiator, Steve, and he's and I don't know what the heck he's doing. Put needles in me. I smelled like liniment,
Oh,
camphor, menthol, whatever. I got up, and for the first time in a year and a half, I could breathe, and my heart wasn't racing. I didn't feel this desperation like it was going to be over any minute. and I knew something was happening. So I just kept going. I borrowed money. When you're sick and young, you don't have any money. Actually, when you're very sick, you won't have any money. But at this point, I was too young to really, be self-sufficient. I borrowed money for 8 months and I got better. But after that, I ran out. So I just begged to be a student. And from there begins everything. I become a student, I become an apprentice. 23 years later, here we are having this conversation. It obviously works. There's definitely some value to traditional Asian medicine. I know this from my own life. And because of that, I abandoned every other thing I was doing before that, which is a whole nother show in itself. But yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So what happened to you caused you to move in the direction that you're in today. But before we go further into that, let's talk a little bit about your childhood and upbringing. So when you were a little boy and you were growing up, what were your aspirations back there? When you were a little kid, I had to dream of being a baseball player. It never happened. How about you? When you were young, what did you think you were going to become?
Um, well, it's hard to be a baseball fan in Chicago, like especially especially with the Cubs never getting it. But so I just wanted to do music. Like I was an awkward kid, had a religious upbringing and like I was kind of socially out of it. And I just wanted to make music because music was that time for me to connect and a way to extrovert or whatever. And that was it. Like I studied music. I played turntable bongos when I was like 8 years old. I played anything that had percussion. I learned how to play digital instruments when I was about like 12, 13, everything by ear. I wrote music. I got really into hip hop and house music from Chicago, like the home base of house music. I got heavy into music. And the only thing I could ever see myself being was a performer,
Yep.
you know?
And then, so how did the transition go from that to where you are today? So you go to college, and what do you study in college?
I kind of went to U of A for a semester and got sidetracked because I was just going to parties. And it was like the first time when everybody was out there exploring themselves. I didn't make it through college. I just ended up performing. I would work at a corporate job. I'd work in, insurance, medical insurance, or something that paid 20, 25 an hour in the 90s. And at night, I would play music, you know. The transition just happened because I feel that there's a level of life that's superficial and a level of life that's genuine or more introspective. Performing music didn't keep me healthy, and as much as I was attached to it, it didn't it didn't help me survive. And I had to take the same inspiration that I had for creating music, for making people happy, and really survive. And from my own survival, Steve, really came this unexpected compassion for other people that are going through disease. You don't see these folks until you're one of them.
Right.
And when you're one of them, it's like people won't see you either. And you go from a human being to a patient. In fact, one of the good people that trained me, he said, "What is a patient?" And the answer was, a patient is a man or a woman that needs help with a medical problem. And then the second question was, when does that patient become a man or a woman again? And really, because of what I had experienced, it wasn't okay for me to be a 9 to 5er with a musical aspiration. It was okay for my for my mind and my feelings to put my body into motion and really doing something pragmatic to get people well. And even when it paid me $10 an hour and I'm commuting to Chinatown through all the tolls that it takes to go from out west to out south, and then dealing with traffic, 15 miles, as you know, is probably 90 minutes, maybe worse, and I haven't been there in 11 years. But yeah, it's worth the time and effort to make sure that somebody has a resource when nothing is working for them, because somebody did that for me. And
Absolutely.
like, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
I hadn't mentioned, you did ask about my family. If I could say something positive, like the greatest thing that our parents did for us was to care. And there's a point when they had to let go of us. And at that point, there's got to be a community of concerned people that act like the family. Like these are things that we're missing in the digital age. And I think that it's a good sign that we were raised well, that we reach back and help people, as you do with people. I've seen, I've been in personal discussions with you, and I've seen your interest in helping other people. So that's, I don't want to leave that out about family. They're great people, and they really raised me to care about folks.
Well, there's nothing more important than having the family support to encourage you and support you in the direction that you went. So now we got to kind of fast forward the videotape. So you're in Chicagoland, you're developing. How do you wind up in Charlotte? How do you open up your business with your ACU Bodywork? How does that all come to be in time?
Perfect. So I end up in Charlotte. I'm completely transparent. I got divorced. I was done with with the cold. My family was down here already, and I just took the opportunity to reconnect, and I needed help too because I had to start over. The lady that worked at Holistic Wellness Institute, where I was in Illinois, she passed away, and her business would have closed. I was her program director. I moved out here trying to find somebody like Dr. Lee or Dr. Urasek that I used to assist when I was doing needle acupuncture, and I didn't find anybody. Charlotte is not the kind of city that Chicago is or Chicagoland is. Chicago has a history. It's got some really deep footprints, and you can find a business that's been around 30 years, 50 years, that's been doing the same thing, and you can really develop a relationship in that market or in that field. That's not the way the Carolinas are. Like you come out here, set up your place, and next month you are the community. Next month you are the and that's kind of what happened. I went from a 30-year-old that was looking to be an apprentice some more to the head of a business. Yeah.
So explain a little bit about the technology. Again, we talked a little bit about traditional acupuncture, and I see these needles coming out of people. This technology totally doesn't use needles. And what is the and again, let's not get into too technical or too medical like terms, but how does that holistic approach to healing either replicate or is better than the pins and the needles with acupuncture?
It's a perfect question. So the one technical term I'm going to use, then I'll stop, is called neuromodulation. Probably neuromodulation because it's skin, and it's neuro is nerves, and then modulation means change. When you put a needle in somebody's skin, which is the biggest external organ, what you're doing is connecting to the brain. It's not a hypodermic needle. You're not trying to inject something into somebody. It's just breaking those superficial layers of skin. Okay. So what happens in most people's mind is that in acupuncture, the chi is flowing, which many of us have a hard time accepting that there's such a thing. In our world, we know the brain exists, we know the nerves exist, we know blood vessels exist. And anytime you touch a person, if it's cold wind, an ice cube, hot, an impact, a blunt trauma, everything registers a signal in your brain. So when you touch the skin, which has the most amount of nerves in it, that you're, it's the most populated neurologically, you're sending messages back and forth to your brain. Acupuncture is interesting because the needles go in places that are low electromagnetic resistance, meaning if I hooked up a machine that measured the voltage on your skin, which we actually do have, about 80 millivolts, which is a AA battery is 1.5 volts. So it's like 1,000th of that, barely. Okay, so when a person has an injury, the activity on the skin usually goes up to 1 or 2 volts. When you put an acupuncture needle in somebody's skin, you can use a voltimeter and measure the current goes down. So by increasing the stimulation, you're actually decreasing the brain's activity, which is why people feel relaxed. When you put our technology, which came from the guy behind me, it's Nikola Tesla. I don't know if you can see. Nikola Tesla in 1893 introduced the oscillating coil, the Tesla coil. So this is not the Elon Musk Tesla, but this is, Nikola Tesla, the inventor. He introduced high voltage, low amp. and he was running massive amounts of electricity through his body and holding light bulbs with no wires hooked up to him, and the light bulb was lighting up. That's the picture to my lower left. Like, he's got 250 kilovolts, 250,000 volts going through his body at low amps, and he's alive. And he wanted to show you that it was safe. So our devices don't use that much power, but we use the Tesla coil along with a vial made of glass, and it runs a small amount of current through the body, which can't be felt by most, but has immediate effects on your brain, just like acupuncture.
So what is the basic thesis of what you are doing? Is it redirecting the energy in your body to relax you? Is it, I just kind of explain. So if I have a backache and I want you to help me relieve that backache, you're going to do something with your technology. You know probably where to touch. You explain how my backache's going to, because I had that when my son got married in 2017. I had a wicked backache and I couldn't resolve it. But if I had come to you, what would you be doing to me to resolve that lower back pain? It came from shoveling snow, but inappropriately.
So it's a repetitive strain backache, right? So if I worked in physical therapy, massage, or anything else, even some people in acupuncture, I would treat you right on the back. But remember, everything is connected to your brain by your nerves and your blood vessels that feed your nerves, right? So my job, Stephen, is to find the mirror. My job is to find the other part of your body that has the same level of pain as your back. It might be in your hand, it might be in your ear, it might be in your scalp, it might be in your foot, it might be in the middle of your calf muscle. But everything is connected electrically by your nerves, everything is connected chemically by your blood. And all I'm doing really is getting your body to react with me to where it naturally produces pain relievers, anti-inflammatories, and these things happen instantly if they're done well. The machines make it even faster. Yeah.
So how do you learn all about that? And is it something that is a licensed profession? How does that all tie together?
I think there it is. Well, so if you want to learn how to find the matching places to help the body, that's acupuncture theory. That's acupuncture diagnostics. I do have a school that teaches this, but outside of that, you would have to go to an acupuncture school. If you're using needles, you absolutely need an acupuncture license because that's a medical device. We are not using needles, so we are using the theory and the diagnostics, and we use the terminology. But because we're not using needles, if you have a massage license or an OT, occupational therapist, PT license, I'm sure you'd be fine because nothing you're doing is using medical devices. We are not diagnosing people. I believe you could, if you're interested in adding to what you do, you could train through me. Otherwise, you'll have to do what I did and go learn acupuncture and then figure it out for yourself, which it takes a long time if you don't have somebody leading you. But yeah, you could learn from me or you could go to acupuncture school.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about your business here. So you're up and running in Charlotte, North Carolina. You've been there for quite a period of time. So tell me about your business in general. How many work with you? How many professionals work with you? How do you get your customers? And at the end of this this video podcast, by the way, you'll be able to direct our listeners to where on the web they can find more information and actually get more information from you. But how did you establish your business? How has it grown? How do you get customers? Whatever it is that gets you to the level of where your business is today, how did you get that established growth that you have right now?
Okay, so Steve, I would love to say that I was a great marketer and business person, but the truth is I'm not. I helped a lady at a health food store with an ear infection, and it was such a profound thing. Like pus shot out of this lady's ear when I worked on her. It was in front of an audience. So there were about 7 or 8 people watching. From that point on, they let me practice inside the health food store. I saw hundreds of people every day. I was out in the public square, and people just got to know me as a face. From that point, I never really had a problem getting somebody to come, but 90% of our business is word of mouth. It's referrals. It's just from good work. I am trying to get further into, the internet because it's billions of people. But honestly, the reason why this business is successful is because it's good work, it's word of mouth, and it never stops. We get a referral once or twice a day.
Wow.
So yeah, that's true. I've put out marketing, like I've done YouTube, I've done social media, but to be honest with you, when you tell somebody I'm doing no needle acupuncture, either you get some people who believe that like it's a cult, it's like some kind of religion, or you get people that are like, absolutely no way. And even if you could, acupuncture is snake oil. So you know, it's anybody's guess how you become an entity on the internet without learning how to market. I haven't mastered that. The reason why this business runs well is because we track our results. We have a good solid 85% success rate. Not everybody is happy. I mean, it's impossible to do that, but it's probably 8 to 9 out of 10 people walk out of here with something to talk about immediately. And if it weren't for word of mouth, this business wouldn't exist. So it's the people of Charlotte that keep me open.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a couple of principles that I adhere to. Number one, visibility is key. So you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. And then the successes you had from the customers you helped, they actually passed the word along, and that's how additional customers came along. I think that's what you're saying. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, visibility is key. That's you know, people have to know you're there. Yes, absolutely. And without those things, this wouldn't have made it. A lot of people my students and other people like what we're doing, but nobody's been able to replicate this kind of clinic because they just either don't have the language to describe what they're doing or the results aren't there yet. So it's good work, visibility, and probably some luck, because who would have known?
Well, you know, it's probably luck, it's probably fortune. Um, it's kind of interesting. The Post-it pad was invented by accident. Someone was trying to create a stronger glue, and lo and behold, it's a less sticky device, and look where that became. So, you're just fortunate to be where you are and to have developed what you did. And there's so much more to you and your business, because I did view the documentary before coming on, and I did check out your website. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to let the audience know about?
I just kind of want to brag. I know in Eastern philosophy and in the world, to be arrogant is the worst thing you can be. To be selfless is a high honor. I just want to brag. Look, if you're alive in this time, we've taken a 2,000, possibly 8,000-year-old art, and we've put the power into the hands of people who need it. This is an American invention. This is something that we did that doesn't hurt anybody. You're here and you're alive in this time. If you're having body pains or any symptom of any chronic disease, as long as you don't have a pacemaker or a hearing aid or an insulin pump, now you may have access to the relief of great acupuncture. And it's something that I'm very happy. I want to thank Dr. Brian Anderson for creating the technology. I want to thank Mike, the engineer. I don't know if I can say his whole name. I don't think he's an Indiana boy. So Americans, please, like I know there's a negativity in our time. There's all this, unrest. People, we're so caught up in things. This is a wonderful time in natural care because this invention is 2,000 years in the making. So I just want to brag. That's
Well,
that's it.
no, you have every right to. Good for you. So, where can we find more information, Yadi? And now I know we're going to post it when it gets posted to YouTube, how to find it, but where can they go right now to find more information about you, your business, your technology, right? How do you direct them?
Just visit charlotteacubodywork.com. It's no hyphens, no spaces. Charlotte, like the city, ACU Bodywork.com. Everything is out of charlotteacubodywork.com. Odds are it's better to go there than to just search me out on the internet, because I'll probably just direct you there. But we'll definitely have this kind of conversation. It'll be from the heart, natural, and I'll see what I can do to help you or your loved ones. charlotteacubodywork.com.
All right, Yadi, this has been terrific, and I never would imagine there would have been something out there, and I certainly learned a lot from what you described, what you developed, and where you are today. So I thank you very much for your time. I thank you for your description of the technology. And audience, I hope you learned a lot about something else that's out there to kind of give you some health and healing that will be able to help you build a better business. He built a better business on the technology that's been around for quite some time, or the procedure's been around for some time, adapted it to where it is today. And thanks again, Yadi, for describing what it is that you do and sharing the successes that you have.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you.